Okay, so we've got a great event today. We have two things we're going to do. They both involve Skip Heller. Skip Heller is on the screen, and Skip Heller, stand up. Skip, okay.
Thanks, Gary.
So, Skip has put together a curated selection of Los Angeles in film. I don't want to talk too much about it because he's just going to start to do the presentation and it will unravel. I would just quickly like to mention several things. Again, I would like to thank everyone for coming. Andrea, thank you for helping us do this. I would like to thank Adele Yellen, who owns this joint, who has been gracious enough to let us activate this space. And very quick, yes, God bless Adele. Andrea, we have a 100-year anniversary of the market coming up next year. So I believe that you and Donald Spivak and Kim and I have a confab soon to plan some parties for the 100 years. So on that note, I just quickly want to, right. Most important thing I can say today is next month's salon. So next month, in 1 month, on the 28th of August, we're going to have a circuit bending salon. And circuit bending is this really interesting subgenre of electronic music where you take repurposed toys like Speak and Spells and Furbies and you turn them into musical instruments. And these are musical instruments that work by actually playing with them, and also like a theremin by just moving your body, your hand around them, and adjusting the electrical field in front of it. So it's going to be a lot.
It's really creepy.
It's so much fun, and it's hands-on. What's not obvious and is obvious in the right of is, if you come to this salon, you'll get to play with the toys. So they're just going to have 4 tables here. Okay, great. I always show a photo from Grand Central Market from 99 years ago. So, this is a photo of Grand Central Market on Broadway, opening day, which is October 1917. Isn't that amazing? That's the Broadway side. So just absolutely beautiful. Very quickly, Kim and I are esotouric. We give bus tours, and I have my architecture bus tours in the month of August, and I'm just quickly going to push all of them because I love them. Next, a week from today, is my South LA Modernism Architecture Tour. This is a tour about Googie, the birth of modernism like Irving Gill, birth of modernism, and adobes, and speed shops. And it's totally fantastic, and you should get on the bus. I love it. The next week, we have my Boyle Heights Monterey Park Melting Pot Tour, which is about the history of immigration reform, Chicano activism, Asian American activism, just all these interesting things that happen in Boyle Heights and Monterey Park, which are contiguous, separate municipalities, super interesting, and this is great. And then lastly, I have my downtown architecture tour, the lowdown on downtown, and we get to go to the Dutch chocolate shop, the Ernst Batchelder 1916 space. So sign up, get on the bus, we have flyers there, and I think that's it. And so Skip, why don't you, let me put the microphone down for you, you can sit down, and we're going to start to show some film clips.
Okay.
Richard.
Yes. Oh.
All right, can everybody see me, hear me? I'm well. Okay. Before I say anything else, I want to thank Richard and Kim for having me and for putting this thing on every month. And kind of as our dry run for this, Richard made me a really beautiful lunch this week. So if things don't pan out with this, and before I even get started, everybody asks me, like, where did you learn about this stuff? And the 2 books that got me started, this is called the LA Musical History Tour. It's by a guy named Art Fine. And he is one of the really important LA music historians. And the other is a guy named Jim Dawson, who's written liner notes, he's written books, and his book about Big J. McNeely called Nervous Man Nervous really sheds a lot of light on the early post-war history of Los Angeles music. Plus, he wrote a great book about Bunker Hill and one about Angel's Flight. So he's a guy you should totally know about and check out. So, like many Californians, I am from somewhere else, but after having been here for 20 years, I've learned a few things about how the place is unique. And first of all, Los Angeles is a total creative industry center, and while there are others, New York and Nashville most famously, but also some would say Austin is and Miami is, we have something those places don't. And it might start with the history that's entangled with Mexico, missions, and all the other stuff that you find in... Does everybody know the book Ramona? Okay. A lot of what we think of now as Southern California lore is really right out of this 1884 children's book by a woman named Helen Hunt Jackson. And a lot of that is because just generations of people have, like, grandma passed it down to mom, passed it down to daughter. And while it might be hyperbole to call it the Harry Potter of its time, it was totally huge. And there were for years popular tourist destinations that advertised themselves as like the real birthplace of Ramona and stuff like that, even though there was no actual Ramona. I don't want to get too deeply into Ramona. That's obviously a subject for another whole salon. I mean, has it been done already?
No, but I know just who to do it.
I'm just not that good. But I do have to mention it because it's still an integral part of Southern California's image. Like Dave Alvin's song, King of California, is right out of Ramona imagery. And nobody in their right mind would dispute Dave's place as one of the more credible songwriters about Los Angeles. Maybe even he's the most recent one we could say has written about it definitively. So also, Ramona being inclusive of this, we have a very long history of self-referenced entertainment. Our residents have been able to write books, sing songs, and make movies about our lives here. And since this is the major creative industry center, we ship that stuff all over the world. And people take it as part of overall Americana. So, and it's not just movie stars. We export Angeline. We export Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, In-N-Out Burger, and while this stuff is all extremely local, it pops up in crossword puzzles and on The Simpsons. But no, I mean, at this point you can tell you're in the culture if you're on The Simpsons somehow. Jasper Johns has been on The Simpsons. Lisa Leslie has been on The Simpsons. Sonic Youth have been on The Simpsons. So, after World War II, the music business went through a whole boom, largely because the materials you need to make records weren't rationed anymore. And with it came the rise, nowhere more so than here, of independent record labels, which largely popped up to service non-mainstream clienteles. And a direct result was that more records spoke from and about various communities in a more up-to-date way than ever before. Technology made it quicker and cheaper, and in the process, we more fully documented the wishes, jokes, dance music, stereotypes, and concerns of a wider variety of communities. And every form, from blues songs to pop songs to comedy and parody, has been crafted to make these local vernacular song lyrics. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some of this stuff for you, and instead of waiting till the end, feel free to ask questions as we go along, or while I'm talking, while the music's playing, so it'll be more like a record party, and less like another middle-aged Jew batting his gums about scholarship. Also, I'm going to stick to roughly about a 20-year time frame, just so we have a structure, and also so I don't have to dip into like the post-Bob Dylan era of songwriters who really made their living talking about their neighborhood. Richard?
Yes, number one.
So the first thing that we're going to play is Bing Crosby, and this is a record that this is a record that is blinding me. Yes, Mom.
Let's move you, honey. Let's move.
We're going to play two songs that are kind of back-to-back. They're both major label releases. The first is by Bing Crosby. It's called San Fernando Valley, and it was a hit. And the other was by the Andrews Sisters. It's called Azusa, and it wasn't a hit. But they both talk about the post-war real estate boom and getting out of the city. And the Andrews Sisters version is the record version. The Crosby version is actually a live version from a war bond drive, but he's singing so well in it that I thought it was a great opportunity for people to check out Bing Crosby. So Richard, if you would.
And I'm leaving today, 'cause I'm taking a trip California way. I'm gonna settle down and never more roam, and make the San Fernando Valley my home. I'll forget my sins, I'll make a new friend, where the west begins and the sunset ends. I'm gonna settle down and never more roam, and make the San Fernando Valley my home. I think that I'm safe and stable, my tomato will be waiting when my lonely journey is done. And kindly old Reverend Thomas made us a solemn promise, said he'd make the two of us one. So hit the trail to the cow country, looking forward my mail, carry R.F.D. I'm fixing to settle down and never more roam, and make the San Fernando Valley my home, and make the San Fernando Valley my home, and make the San Fernando Valley my home.
I didn't want to get that quickly. Okay, so by the way, that why they were laughing was Bob Hope poked his nose out at one point, and then Jerry Colonna, who was also on the Bob Hope show, also poked his head out. And this was apparently very funny to people in 1943.
What's that? Christian Hoffman.
Oh, thought you meant who gave me the shirt. Now we're going to play Azusa by the Andrews Sisters, and again, let's romanticize small town life here a little bit. And I think that Bing Crosby might have been doing a little bit of commercial advertising, because at the time of that song, he was buying huge chunks of the San Fernando Valley and selling them to the staff writers at NBC.
That'll take me my
Our DJ is running all over the floor. Okay, put up 4 Little Miles.
Oh my.
How many people here, show of hands, have ever heard of Lalo Guerrero? Okay, very good. 5 of my friends. By the way, I want to point out my friend Garrett Lofgren over there, who was actually born in Azusa. Okay, so we're just going to show part of this. But yes, part.
I'm looking for a man named Ryan.
So this is from a movie called His Kind of Woman with Robert Mitchum,
I'm a man named Bill.
who you might recognize, at least I hope you do, and Jane Russell. And if you look closely at the guitar player, who's not actually playing, he's just kind of lip-syncing behind Jane Russell, it's Lalo Guerrero. And this is the only film footage we have of him with an instrument in his hand at this point in history.
One little big. You got anything to eat? Chili. Got beans.
I woke up having and I looked out the window, what a view. 5 little miles from San Francisco, 4 little miles from San Francisco. Reporter shouted, we're almost done. I saw familiar spots swimming. 4 little miles from San Francisco, 3 little miles from San Francisco. My bag was packed and ready. I said to myself, steady, 2 more miles and you're in heaven. 1 little mile from
Richard?
my heart was skipping a beat or 2. Oh, what a thrill that
So, she looks good.
She looks great. Why do you stop it? Which one do you want next?
Louis Sabroso Blues. Give me a second. Okay.
So, Lalo Guerrero is one of the most important guys. He actually wasn't born in LA, he was born in Tucson in 1916. And his first heroes when he was a kid were Bing Crosby and Rudy Valley. And those were like some of the first songs he sang. But being Mexican-American, he didn't really have access to play for the Anglo community. So he went into Mexican music right at the first great trio boom of about the late 30s, and which hit both sides of the border. Los Trios Calvados. Those of you who know the stuff can explain it to those who don't. Anyway, Lalo made his way up to LA in the mid-40s, and he got a gig on Alvera Street during a time when Mexican-Americans, black folks, and white folks were all hanging out in the clubs and bars right near Union Station. And his sets had swing music and Latin music and English and Spanish singing. No, before Lalo, a bass player named Don Toasty had done a record called Pachuco Boogie, which basically was like a jazzy blues record with some guys going, "Hey, ese, are you going?" "Yeah, Arle." Not really a lot of lyric content, just some slang. And as a piece of music, it's more of an indicator than a great musical event. But Lalo started taking Spanglish that was going on around him and making a real true hybrid of Latin music and what was coming up as rhythm and blues. He was not just taking root in the black community, but also the Latin community. And Muy Sabroso Blues is a very typical example of what he was doing. And it might be a stretch to say Lalo invented the rhythm and blues, Latin convergence, but he was the first guy to do it really, really well. And he did it on a label called Imperial Records, which started out as a Mexican label, but also signed Fats Domino and T-Bone Walker. So I think the guy who ran that label got an idea from it. So Richard, let's play Muy Sabroso Blues by Lalo Guerrero.
Sé qué hacer, me siento muy sabroso.
so that's kind of a very typical example of that period of Lalo. But his big hit in 1955 was a parody of the song Davy Crockett. How many people know that song? Okay. Pretty much every ethnic subgroup that had a record label attached to it had an ethnic parody version of Davy Crockett. There's a Yiddish English one by Mickey Katz called David Crockett. Dr. Demento appraised me of a Norwegian one that was very popular up around Minneapolis and Fargo. And a guy named Lou Monti had an Italian version of it. And they're all pretty awful. But they all have the same thing of like the greenhorn immigrant who comes to the big American town and conquers it, which is, especially in Yiddish music, kind of a big topic, the Grena Hassim, or the greenhorn cousin. And this song is called Pancho Lopez. And it is about as politically incorrect a song as any of us has ever found. It also got Lalo the threat of a lawsuit from Walt Disney, who owned the Davy Crockett property. And Walt didn't sue, but it's this is like this is Lalo's biggest hit. You can always find it in Catholic thrift stores here around LA. So Richard, give us Pancho Lopez.
Born in Chihuahua in 1903, on a sarape out under a tree. He was so fat he could almost not see. He could eat 12 tacos when he was only 3. Pancho, Pancho Lopez, the pride of Mexico. Shoot his gun, ride on his burro till the day is done. But when there's work to do, why Pancho he run? He go out agreeing to sleep in the sun. Pancho, Pancho Lopez, you lazy son of a gun. And Pancho he gets sore. He go with Pancho Villa to fight in the war. But Pancho he don't like this risky chore. He come back to Chihuahua and he sleeps some more. Pancho, Pancho Lopez, he lie in the sun and snore. When he wake up,
Okay, you get the idea. He later comes to Alvera Street and opens a taco stand. So Lalo was a total political progressive. He did a lot of like rallies and fundraisers for Cesar Chavez. But he wasn't really PC. And the cherry on top of this is when Bill, at the dinner where Bill Clinton gave him the Congressional Medal of the Arts, when they were taking a picture of Lalo and his wife with President Clinton and his wife, he grabbed Hillary Clinton's ass. And I mean, I heard the story, but it was backed up by no less than Tishi Hinojosa, who was standing behind them when the picture was taken. So we're going to play one more song of Lalo's, and
You can't tell us that story and not show that photo next time.
I couldn't find the photo. I have the photo, but I couldn't scan it. She has this look on her face where she has that smile that she always has whenever she's addressing a chamber of commerce or something, but her eyebrows are up at about here.
God bless you, Steve. So you want the 2-song clip?
Yeah, we want. So this last clip I chose because it's in English. I don't speak Spanish. I have a much better chance with the Yiddish stuff, which we'll play a little bit of in a minute. But this is Lalo in 2001 playing in Tucson, and it's one of his later sort of comedic story songs called No Way Jose. And also it's an actual live clip of him in performance, which, as you can probably guess, there are far too few of. So, Richard, if you would. Those of you who know the stuff, that the clarinet player with white hair, that's Robert Draskin.
Declaration is a real
That's a much younger me. But Robert Draskin was a really great Hollywood composer and musician. He died last year, and that's it's nice for me to see. They were both at my wedding, and very helpful at the time of my divorce.
What about Hortense?
What's that?
What about Hortense? Hortensia.
Oh, Hortensia. That's a funny story. The really beautiful young woman who isn't really doing much except looking very beautiful there. Her job was actually as Lalo's prompter because he would sometimes forget the arrangements, and she was going through his monitor, so if he went off script, she would correct him. And when I hired her onto the group, she was an opera singer, and her mother was like, "You can't do this. Like, we're sending you to music school. We don't want you playing this barrio saloon music." And then when she saw these people from colleges showing up for the gig, she was like, "My daughter is into history. It's very beautiful." And Lalo loved it because he had a really beautiful 24-year-old woman standing next to him. Which is not to be undersold. So next, let's go to I Got a New Car. All right, Big Boy Groves. Irvin Big Boy Groves.
Yep.
Okay.
Here I sit behind a full wine glass. New car outside, another drop of gas. Nothing down in 3 years to pay. Sounded like a pretty good deal the other day.
I got a new
wrote on that dotted line, I haven't been able to sufficiently dine. Toothpicks and soup ain't much of a meal, and $144 a month ain't much of a deal. I got a new body. I got a new body. I got a new body. But I'm broke as I can be. I've had my car a little over a week, and already it's beginning to rattle and squeak. And what little money I runs across goes in my gas tank and out my exhaust. I got a new car. I got a new car. I got a new car. But I'm broke as I can be. It's a shame to let the man come and take it back. My old lady tried to tell me not to get a Cadillac. Next time I buy a car, I'm going to get one that I can afford. And when I say afford, I mean afford.
Okay, so I didn't get to introduce that. But obviously cars were a huge thing to Southern California folks. And this is one of the earliest examples of a rhythm and blues car song for younger people. It's also the first rhythm and blues song I've ever found with lyrics about predatory lending practices. And also, kind of a side note, it's one of the earliest records produced by Lieber and Stoller, who became the most important team in rock and roll pretty much ever, on their Spark label, which I'm sure you've heard of. And Big Boy Groves never had any hits, but his daughter is the female singer on You Are the Sunshine of My Life. So that is 1954, and he has a really good song called You Can't Trust the Horses, which is about horse racing. So apparently the guy never did very well with anything that required money. The next song we're going to play, we got like 3 more. Obviously, one of the big topics in Los Angeles, especially after the war, is assimilation.
Yeah.
And it's always been a little more difficult for the Latino population to assimilate because, frankly, some of you are a little darker than we are. And while that does result in more attractive women across the board, it also results in certain other types of problems. But with Jewish people, we have generally had an easier time of it because you can't really tell who's Jewish on sight. Proof of this is when you look at Hollywood movies, how many Italians play Jews and how many Jews play Italians. So, it's true. My grandfather was one of those guys who didn't generally want it to be known that he was Jewish. And on the Italian side of my family, speaking Italian in front of the kids, specifically my mom and my Uncle Jim, was totally verboten because they didn't want to raise the next generation of immigrants. They wanted to raise real Americans. So, and that type of thing wasn't rare. In the last 30 years, we've seen more people kind of doubling down and embracing Yiddishkeit and what have you, but for a long time, it wasn't very popular, and as a result, a lot of history has been lost because not enough people speak that much Yiddish. A lot of newspapers and magazines are thrown out and so forth. So, unlike Greeks, Mexican folks, and whoever who kept their language alive, so they've kept their culture alive, Jewish people have had a hard time with it. and entirety. So Alan Sherman is probably most famous for Hello Mudda, Hello Fada, but he had a long and interesting career, and not just as a song parodist. Mickey Katz and a few others had interesting song parodies about assimilation, but there's too much Yiddish in those, and they move really fast. Now, this parody has a young couple starting out as progressives and ending up totally somewhere else, which, while not exclusively Californian, is very typical here. So, Harvey and Sheila. You might recognize the source melody.
Sheila Harvey, and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila on the day they met. Harvey, and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila no one will forget. Harvey's a CPA, he works for IBM. He went to MIT and got his PhD. Sheila's a girl I know at BBDMO. She works the PBX and makes out the checks. Then came one great day when Harvey took the elevator. Sheila got in 2 floors later. Soon they both felt they were falling. Everyone heard Sheila calling, ring the bell, but they fell. Harv and Sheila fell in love. Harvey and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila chose a wedding ring. Harvey and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila married in the spring. She shopped at A&P, he bought a used MG. They sat and watched TV on their RCA. Borrowed from HFC, bought some AT&T, and on election day worked for JFK. Then they went and got a Charger plate from R.H. Macy, bought a Leia, pink and lacy. Then they had twin baby girls, both with dimples, both with curls. One named B, one named K. Soon they joined the PTA. Harvey and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila moved to West LA. Harvey and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila Harvey, and Sheila flew TWA. They bought a house one day, financed by FHA. It had a swimming pool full of H2O. Traded their used MG for a new XKE. Switched to the GOP, that's the way things go. Oh, that Harvey, he was really smart. He used his doodle, Sheila bought a white Prince Poodle. Went to Europe with a visa. Harvey's rich, they say that he's a VIP. This could be only in the USA.
So the Republicans by the end of the song. Let's just go right to Cannibal and the Headhunters, Land of a Thousand Dances. This isn't lyrically a California song, but I love showing this clip. Basically, after, less than 20 years of Lalo Guerrero starting out with like the traditional blues stuff, you had an East LA band, Cannibal and the Headhunters, transforming a New Orleans song to something that's really very Chicano-American, but at the same time it's a fully formed style of rhythm and blues that's competitive with anything the Temptations or James Brown were doing. And it's got great dance stuff at the end. So, Cannibal and the Headhunters, Land of a Thousand Dances.
You gotta
Okay, so that was Cannibal and the Headhunters.
What year?
That's like 1965. That was the year they toured with the Beatles.
Wow.
And Frankie Cannibal Garcia, he's a really interesting guy, and I hope somebody writes a book about him because he was like one of the first openly gay guys to come out of the East LA scene, and frankly, he was so talented he could not be denied. But you know, it was kind of a thing for him to be out in such a macho culture, and it was a lot of really cool stories about him. Now, our last song, before we bring up the living musicians, is about as regional as it gets. I'm probably going to cause disagreement here, but the guy I think of as being the most accurate songwriter about 60s LA was Frank Zappa. He went out of his way, sometimes awkwardly and sometimes without the burden of good taste, to make music with local folklore at its core. Now, here, as I could tell, Brian Wilson's version of Southern California is kind of like David Runyon's version of Broadway, you know, Guys and Dolls, or like Norman Rockwell's paintings of Middle America. It's a beautiful place that mostly never existed, but the art is so beautiful that we don't care about accuracy. So what he's singing about here is a place called El Monte Legion Stadium. Has anybody ever heard of it? Okay, good. Is it actually in the book, Art? Well, it's not in the first edition of the book, it's in the second. El Monte Legion Stadium was just outside of Los Angeles city limits, and in the early days of rock and roll, LA had some very stringent rules about large gatherings of young people of different colors. So a lot of the first big rock and roll shows were held at El Monte Legion Stadium, usually presented by a DJ named Art LeBeau, who I'm sure many of you have heard of. And it was very racially integrated, and actually very few fights to hear Art tell it, which is why they could keep on having shows, because the minute the cops came out, that could destroy a venue, which is a tradition that lived well into the punk rock years. So this is a song about many of the great hits that were played at El Monte Legion Stadium by a group called the Penguins, who did Earth Angel. And a side note about the Penguins, the flip side of Earth Angel. Does anybody know what that is? It's a record called Hey Senorita, which is a black group doing a Latin blues with all kinds of regional Mexican stuff in it. So it did go both ways. So if you will, we'll end with Memories of El Monte.
I'm all alone, feeling so blue, thinking about you and the love we once knew. And each time I do, it brings back those memories of El Monte.
Okay, thus endeth the record party. We please welcome to the bandstand right now, such as it is, Garrett Lofgren from Azusa, California. From Cairo, Texas, Kevin Shaburka. From the great fighting city and gated retirement community of La Crescenta, Owen Jenkins.
Either way. No, just leave it.
With that girl?
You gotta turn that off. It's
I'm not a spotlight kind of guy. Check. It was Owen. These young people with their loud amplifiers. And from the East Coast as I am, our guest star, and I do mean star, this is Bliss Bowen, who's going to do the high harmonies. Please let her be welcome. So here are songs about California that when you play them anywhere east of about Pomona, nobody cares. With the palm trees and the stars in the land of shattered dreams. In my tiny small apartment, and life is just exactly as it seems. I grow older every minute, so no matter how I spin it, it is middle age. And here in California, everybody's living on stage. Here in California, no one has to warn you things get tough. 'Cause no matter who you were and where you've been, somehow it's never quite enough. We spend everything we make just to stay beneath this golden sky. And here in California, no one ever stops to ask why. I thought I took a temporary job, it's been anything but. It's office space and cubicles for what I need to make the monthly bill. That guy who cleaned your table, he was on a major label not that long ago. Here in California, some guys gotta eat between shows. Here in California, no one has to warn you things get tough. 'Cause no matter who you were and where you've been, somehow it's never quite enough. We spend everything we make just to stay beneath that golden sky. Here in California, no one ever stops to ask why. Here in California, no one ever stops to ask why. Thank you. One of my...
What's that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, if you don't want to hear more of Bliss Bowen, play Mark Fine. I just turned you up here.
Thank you.
This next song is about this phenomenon that's really common to California, which is we all know somebody who was in a band with somebody really famous at some point. And a friend of mine used to be in a band with a guy named Don Dockett. Does anybody remember the heavy metal band Dockett? Yeah, Ruth, I can just see you with that much hair. So this is a song about a friend of mine who was in that band, but he didn't get to be famous with Don. He went to work at the phone company. There's a little bar out in Reseda. Long ago we made ourselves a name. The four of us upon a tiny band, working hard to learn those chords of fame. Well, it got to where we own the whole West Valley. Any crowd we played to, there we came. We thought that we could maybe make a ring. Play some places out beyond these hills. Out beyond these hills, beyond these valley pubs, to the Sunset Strip and all the famous clubs. It's sex and drugs and rock and roll and grills. Out there in this town beyond the hills. So we ventured out into the big weeknights at the bottom of the bill. We got a name in the lights up at the whiskey. I'll admit I brag about it still. I guess we never made it past Reseda and broke up as bands so often will. It's only 15 15 miles from here to Sunset. But it's another world in town on these hills. Out beyond these hills, beyond these valley buds, to the Sunset Strip and all the famous clubs. It's sex and drugs and rock and roll and thrills. Out there in the town beyond these hills. Out there in the town beyond these hills. Thank you. That's on our CD called Here in California, which is available right over from that attractive young person over there, who also has t-shirts. What's that?
I don't know how much that was.
There, now she's up to 11.
Finally.
You'll note our stack of Marshalls back there.
Let's see, what should we do now?
I used to have, I used to live in Panorama City, back when it wasn't hip yet. And there was a woman who was on the local billboard of one of the local gentlemen's clubs, and I would always see her buying phone cards. And I said, do you actually dance over at that place? She said, yes, but eventually I hope to direct. And this song is about her. She's long, she's tough. Once again, she's long, she's tough. She's every schoolboy's dream. She's every schoolboy's dream. But don't you look too close, cause her eyes are kinda hard and mean. In Panorama City, she's dancing in some bar. In Panorama City, she's topless in some bar. How many years since she came out here to be a star? She's got a long-term case of the San Fernando Valley Blues. She's got a long-term case of the San Fernando Valley Blues. Don't try to save her, she'll only give her blues to you. Looking for a daddy, put her on easy street. She's looking for a daddy with a house on easy street. Them Sherman Wave bars pay good, but they kill her feet. She's got a long-term case of the San Fernando Valley Blues. Long-term case of the San Fernando Valley Blues. Don't try to save her, she'll only give her blues to you. Don't try to save her, she'll only give her blues to you. And I'm glad these lovely children were here to hear that message. It's a little, I apologize for there not being air conditioning down here. I didn't know. This is a song about when you see a really good actress in a really intense play, and then you run into her at Cantor's Delicatessen. I'm sitting for rows back when Amanda takes the stage. The character she's playing, I don't see how someone wrote it on a page. She's a little too damn scary, she's a little too intense. Something tells me this ain't just an act, but I got the kind of safety that a viewer is afforded when he sees the show in the darkness 4 rows back. I'm at the showbiz deli. My actor friends all go to grab a beer. Sitting with a couple of them, and all of a sudden a man just appears. But before I know what's happening, she walks up and says hello. I try to think of some charming witty crap. It's the kind of safety was previously avoided when I saw the show in the darkness 4 rows back, where I could be in love, albeit from a distance, and forget her when the lights go up again. I don't need to know her name, I don't want to in this instance, from 4 rows back, get a better look and live to walk away. Then on a Monday night, I got him in the palm of my hand. It sounds so good a couple of times I walk up stage just so I can hear the band. Nice Redhead walks up to me and she hands me a beer. She says, "This is on the blonde there in the hat." And I'm a little bit unnerved when I look where she's pointing, and I see a man that's sitting 4 rows back, where I can be in love, albeit from a distance, and forget her when the lights go up again. I don't need to know her name, I don't want to in this instance, from 4 rows back you get a better view and you live to walk away. Thank you. I want to point especially to Kevin Chaburka, who only has a snare drum and is about as resourceful with that as anybody I've ever seen. So please. Garrett Loughran on the bass. Owen Jenkins on guitar back here behind me. Bliss Bowen joining us on vocals so wonderfully. Damn right, yeah. She has the most enormous tiny shoes in the world to fill, and she just does it beautifully every time. So we're going to do an enormous sort of campfire sing-along song about radio and togetherness and Everybody being all as one, united by a cultural experience. And everybody must sing along. It's like We Are the World, only it's much cooler. My friend Stan wrote this, and he said he was trying to write a very stupid parody of TBC-15 by David Bowie, and it came out like this. 1, 2, 3. Very festival. I feel the hot wind on my shoulder, in the touch of a world that is older. I dial it in and check the numbers. I leave it on when ahead I slumber. I hear the talking, I hear the music. I buy the product and never use it. I hear the talking of the DJ. Can't understand just what does he say. I'm on a Mexican radio. You're not singing the trip. I'm on a Mexican, whoa, radio. I'm on a Mexican radio. I'm on a Mexican, whoa, radio. Checking the station, they talk about the U.S. inflation. I understand just a little. No comprende, it's a riddle. I'm on a Mexican radio. I'm on a Mexican, whoa, radio. I'm on a Mexican radio. I'm on a Mexican, whoa, radio. Well, this is our last song. I want to thank Richard and Kim for having me here. Please, a warm round of applause. Over there at our merchandise table, please visit the lovely Natalie and take a little bit of us home with you. Take a lot of us home. We have white t-shirts, very good for summer. Again, how about it for my band, the Hollywood Blues Destroyers? And we want to thank Andre especially for putting everything together to have us down here. Are you still here, dear? Then she gets no applause. The hell with her. I wish I was in Tijuana, eat barbecued iguana. I take requests on the telephone. I'm on a wavelength far from home. I dial it in, check the number. It's coming in from south of the border. I hear the talking of the DJ. Can't understand just what does he say. I'm on a Mexican radio. I'm on a Mexican, whoa, radio. I'm on a Mexican radio. Thanks, Alice, we love you for it. I'm on a Mexican, whoa, radio. All right, stick around because Richard's going to take you on the Broadway tour at 2 p.m. That's correct?
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
So it's really different. Really? How's that going?
Thank you. So, Skip, thank you so much. Thank everyone. Thank you for coming. Did a walking tour at 2. It's what time is it? 1:40, 1:30. Okay, so in about half an hour, in about 20 minutes, we'll start checking in for the walking tour, which will leave at 2. Check in, Chinta, Ben. Check in with the Chinta and Ben right there. I want to thank everyone, and we'll see you next month for circuit pending. Okay.
Hey, thanks for signing up for